What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about it. Should the Bulls trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo? Now, we're going to dive into many different aspects of this trade. First off, can the Bulls give a good enough offer to get the Bucks to bite on a Giannis trade? And also, if the Bulls were to trade for Giannis, could they compete for a championship? We'll dive into that on today's show. But before we do so, if you guys could help us beat the Heat Report into a race to 100 subscribers, we get the first stab at this, so we can pick up 100 subs off today's show and end this battle. So if you guys want to stay up to date on everything around your Chicago Bulls, hit that subscribe button today. And also, we will be going live for the draft lottery, so even more reason to hit that subscribe button. But more importantly, help us beat the Heat Report into a race to 100 subs. All right, let's break it down, because a lot of Bulls fans have been talking about this on Twitter and in the YouTube comment section. You know, could the Bulls trade for Giannis? And we actually had an NBA insider link the Chicago Bulls to a Giannis trade, and obviously a lot of other teams were included in this list. But this is actually what Howard Beck, NBA analyst, had to say, saying, I poked around a little bit a few days ago, and the initial thing I got from one person was just some big rumblings that it's already just the big cities. One of the LA teams or one of the New York teams or maybe Miami. Not a big market, but a glamour market, mid-size market. And then he said this, I think they threw Chicago in there. I can't remember if Houston came up. It should. So first, it was like, where does Giannis want to go, and do they honor that? Because, again, back to Damian Lillard, you're not obligated to honor it. And I do want to make this clear. The Bulls won't be able to pull off a Giannis trade unless he specifically requests a trade to the Chicago Bulls. And I'm not saying it's just got to be like, oh, Giannis gives a list to the Bucks and it's just one team on there. But maybe it could be like a top three where it's like the Bulls, the Knicks, and the Heat. Then the Bulls would have some chance. But the point I'm trying to make here is other teams can just make way better offers. Like, you take a look at the Houston Rockets. This team was just a 2 seed led by a bunch of young talent on that roster. They could just package like Sengun, Jalen Green, all of their picks. I mean, also the Rockets, since they have the Phoenix Suns pick, they'll probably have a better pick than the Chicago Bulls this year in the first round. So the Bulls trade offer, I mean, yes, they could get a solid offer, and it maybe could get the Bucks to bite. But if the Bucks just kind of open this up and saying, hey, Giannis, we're not going to really honor where you want to go, which also I think is unlikely. I think Giannis will give them a list, and they will honor that. But let's just say they make it an open call on who could trade for Giannis. I mean, the Bulls probably pretty far down that list in terms of the best trade offer they can get. But the one thing the Bulls can offer, and I think that could be the most enticing for the Bucks, is they could just give them 3 unprotected first-round picks this year, 27, and 2029. Now, let's just play the game that the Bulls will land, the 12th pick this year in the draft. But then if you're Milwaukee and you're like, the Bulls have been a poorly ran organization for the last, honestly, since Jordan retired, like that 27 pick and that 29 pick could be very enticing. And then you throw in a young guy like Kobe White, you throw in Nikola Vucevic to help match salary, get them a ready now player in Vuce, but you also throw in Patrick Williams here. Do I think this is enough? Probably not. Now, this is an offer that I do think that if Giannis requests to the Bulls, requests a trade to the Bulls, then maybe the Bucks would be enticed by that just a little bit. But I think if the Bulls wanted to really sell the farm here, this would probably be the trade they would have to do. And it's the same exact deal, but if you guys notice, they just include Matas Buzelis. Now, I do want to dive into this here a little bit, because a lot of fans have been saying, oh, should the Bulls be willing to move off Matas Buzelis for Giannis? Even just asking that question sounds absolutely insane, because of course you would be like, yeah, I would trade Matas Buzelis for Giannis. Like, Giannis is a top 3 player alive right now. But it sounds crazy, but I truly think Matas should be untouchable. And this isn't even, a big aspect of like the on-the-court stuff where it's like, obviously if you compare games, they're uncomparable players. Like, Giannis is a true superstar, a true top 20 talent that we have ever seen hit the NBA hardwood. But the point I'm trying to make here is the Bulls need to build a foundation. And Matas is one of those guys where fans already bought into him. He plays the game the right way. He plays hard. I mean, even this past year, like, in my opinion, the Bulls season was a disaster. You landed the 9 seed for a second straight season, had the same exact record of 39 and 43. But the one bright spot, obviously Giddey played well, but Matas Buzelis really had Bulls fans buying in. And, he also shows unreal potential. Like, he'll have a couple of plays. Like, I keep thinking about that Lakers game the one in LA, not the one where Josh Giddey hit the game winner, when he had 30-plus points, like, Matas Buzelis was fantastic. Like, we saw the pop, taking Luka, taking LeBron off the dribble, and he didn't look scared to go at those guys. So I know it sounds crazy, but as it stands right now, I just think the Bulls organization, yes, it would be awesome to get Giannis. They would be a significantly better basketball team with him on this roster, but I don't want them to just give up really. I mean, when was the last time the Bulls had a young player on this organization where everybody's like buying into him, where it's like, yeah, he could be an all-star in the league? That really hasn't happened. I think the fans, like, yeah, you'd be getting Giannis, people would be excited, but they would also be very ticked off that you traded away after just 1 year of Matas Buzelis. So I'll ask you guys this. Is Matas Buzelis untouchable? What say you? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. I'm going to say yes, and it sounds crazy. Like, he's only played 1 year, but I truly do believe he is an untouchable player. So if you guys could, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Let me know, is Matas Buzelis untouchable? You guys let me know your thoughts down below. We're going to dive into the Giannis trade a little more in depth here in a second, but before we do so, I got to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Now, if you guys want to download the Prize Picks app today and plug in promo code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, the basketball playoffs are here, and the action is heating up on Prize Picks, and it's the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. And also, the hockey playoffs are here, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the ice in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's goals, points, or hits, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Now, you may be asking, well, what exactly is Prize Picks? Well, Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. But massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, let's play a little game in this hypothetical world where we're just going to discuss if the Bulls did trade for Giannis, could they win a championship? Like, legitimately, if they were able to pull off this trade this summer, could the Bulls, leap themselves into being a true contender in the NBA? Now, for this hypothetical, we're just going to go off this trade, where the Bulls are obviously getting Giannis, top 3 player in the world. They're giving up 3 first-round picks, Kobe White, Vooch, and Patrick Williams. So how would a Bulls starting lineup look if this is the trade? I think this is what it would be. You would have Josh Giddey still running the point guard. You would have Ayo Dosunmu at the 2 spot, Matas and Giannis at the wings, and then a huge question mark at the center position. Right now, I'm just going to chalk it up to Zach Collins. Now, maybe this could be a deal where the Bulls, you give up those 3 first-round picks for Giannis, then maybe you go give up like a 2026 first to go land a center just to really, go all in. But I love this kind of the backcourt has a lot of size. You got a lot of versatile defenders as well with Ayo, Buzelis, and Giannis. You obviously got an elite playmaker in Giddey. The one thing that's lacking here, though, is a true shooter in this starting lineup, which I think having those guys around Giannis just to create more space on the floor would be key. But I do think, though, if the Bulls are going to, have this blockbuster trade for Giannis, you would have to fully commit to the Giannis era for a chance to compete. Because, listen, that lineup I just showed you right there, yeah, it's a very good team. They'll probably be a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference, banking on guys like Ayo, Giddey, and Matas still taking that next step. But you would have Zach Collins at the 5. Your backup center would be Jalen Smith. And then your bench would, just consist of guys like, Kevin Huerter. I guess that would be a true shooter there. Trey Jones, Lonzo Ball, like you would be incredibly weak at your bench spot. But, obviously Giannis could carry a majority of that load. But I do think if the Bulls pull off this trade, you should be willing to move off like the 26 pick, the 28 first-round pick to just have this whole complete roster around Giannis. And, speaking about Giannis, this guy is just he's a top 3 player in the world. Like, if you guys have watched any NBA over the last, 5-6 seasons, you know how dominant he truly is. He's a great defender. He should be first team All-NBA, first defensive team All-NBA every single year. Just that or he just has that much of an impact, but the numbers are ridiculous. I mean, almost 30-plus points per game over the last 4 seasons, averaging more than 11 rebounds a game, and he's always been very efficient as well, and he's also upped his playmaking ability. But also with Giannis, I mean, the guy, there was a huge question mark. Can his game translate to the playoffs? Well, it can. I mean, these are his career numbers in the playoffs, keep in mind. And his first couple of years, he was necessarily a role player for Milwaukee. But in 84 games played, the guy's averaging 27 and 12 while being very efficient from the field. Like, he's a great defender. He's honestly at the peak of his powers right now in the NBA. And, honestly, I think this trade would be a fleece job by the Bulls. And if you are in the camp where you're not willing to move off Kobe White for Giannis, you got to check yourself. You got to really evaluate what's the goal here. Is it to win championships, or is it to be in the play-in yet again? But if this is a trade, I am doing it in a heartbeat. I just don't think the Bucks really take this trade seriously, because I think they're going to want more proven players in this deal. And I'm not saying Kobe, Vooch, and Patrick Williams aren't proven to a point, but they've never sniffed the playoffs. Where a team like the Rockets, they could be like, yeah, we'll give you Jalen Green, Sengun, Jabari Smith, like any combination of all those guys, where I'm sure the Bucks would be more enticed by them over a guy like Kobe White. But I'll toss it your guys' way. Would you accept this deal? A for accept, D for decline down below in the comments section. I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. But if you were to pull off this deal, you have to fully commit to the Giannis era here in Chicago. Now, another friendly reminder, hit that subscribe button on your way out if you guys want to stay up to date on the latest around your Chicago Bulls. See y'all next time. As always, go Bulls.